Welcome to Student Spotlight. It's a presentation of College Success Arizona. This program features the hardworking college students who have earned scholarships from College Success Arizona and are pursuing their educational goals and career passions. Today on Student Spotlight, we interview Carlos Estrada.
So I was born and raised in South Tucson, Arizona.
And where did you graduate from high school?
I attended Sunnyside High School and I graduated in 2014.
And how old are you currently?
I'm currently 21.
And growing up in Tucson, was that overall a good experience?
It was a good experience. It was nice coming from a smaller town into a big city like Phoenix. It was a little bit of an adjustment, just getting used to all the traffic and all the population, but it was definitely a good change.
And what are you doing now so far as your college journey?
So currently I am a senior studying business at the Carey School of Business. My focus right now is business within Spanish language and culture.
And ultimately, what is your dream job? What do you want to do for a career?
So as a career, what I like to do is, ever since I was younger, I've learned that I love interpretation. I love speaking both languages. I love being bilingual. So ultimate goal for me would be to work in some type of interpretation for a big Fortune 500 company, such as even like doing litigation, just trying to help and use my dual language for like the better of the people.
I understand. So you would work in the business community, facilitating as an interpreter between English language and Spanish language business.
Correct. So being that conduit, being that bridge between a non-English speaker and pretty much a non-Spanish speaker, and getting people to pretty much get their point across and be able to everyone have a full understanding of what they're talking about.
Now, does WP Carey facilitate that type of career, or do you learn mostly about business, and then the fact that you also have this ability to speak and you're literate in both languages, that kind of comes as after the fact?
So it's actually a little bit of both. WP Carey did an amazing thing by adding on, which is my actual major, Spanish language, Spanish within business with culture, and so they do a little bit of both. They give you the business side, you learn all the ins and outs of business, but also you learn Spanish as you go. Although I did grow up speaking Spanish, there's so much more you have to learn as far as how to speak it properly, how to write it properly, because although Spanish is one language, there's many dialects from all over the world that you have to kind of know how you're speaking and make sure you're not offending anybody, but also know that you're getting your point across properly.
And do you see yourself ultimately working in the United States or Mexico, South Central America, some Spanish-speaking country?
I would love to be based in the U.S. and then have the opportunity to travel to South America and kind of wherever they would need me, as far as maybe if there's some type of contract going on or if there's some type of meeting, I'd be able to step in and be able to help.
And as you go through your education, do you see that there is a lot of, or there can be a lot of confusion between the languages that can come up, like you said, with different dialects and meanings of words as it applies to English and Spanish, that there can be things can easily get confused if there's not a clear linguistic understanding there?
To be very honest, yes, I do. I previously used to work as an interpreter, and even knowing my training, there was still some words that I'd be talking to someone from maybe the East Coast who had backgrounds from Cuba or even like the islands, and I would say a word that I thought was a universal word in Spanish, and it was not. So it definitely makes, I'd like to go into this major just because I have firsthand experience that there is confusion, even though what we see as a universal word actually isn't.
Years ago, I used to work in the auction industry, and we would hold auctions in English and Spanish, and the word that I was told that in Espanol for auction is subasta. Subasta? Does that sound right?
Correct.
But then I was told that in some parts of Mexico, some people may not know what subasta means.
Correct. So, and that's, one of the few examples that it comes up in the Spanish language, I guess you could say, that doesn't really translate, especially when you get into the very rural parts of Mexico. Many words don't get traveled that far down, so you say a word like subasta, and they either have something that might sound like it, that might be something completely different, or have no actual knowledge of that word.
I knew these Spanish auctioneers, and they'd say they'd only use that word in certain parts of Mexico. So that kind of told me what you basically are saying, that, yeah, some words just don't even exist depending upon the region of the country, I guess.
Exactly. And it's, words from auctions to one word that I'll never forget as an interpreter was the city bus for us here is bus. And you get to like maybe the northern part of Mexico, and people still translate that into el bus, just adding accent to it. But then you get into like the city, the federal district of Mexico, and that's autobus, adding a little bit more of like a proper term to it. But then I remember having a customer from Cuba, and they use something called la guagua, which translates straight into bus, but I've never heard that word until I worked there.
And you're expecting to graduate when exactly from ASU?
December 2018.
December 2018, and your immediate career path after that, do you have anything in mind? Is there a company or some type of business community where someone like you in the interpretation as an interpreter would work?
Though there are companies that do offer interpreting jobs right off graduating, even without a college degree. I'd like to go into more like, say, since I'm a scholar for the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, I'd love to get an opportunity with them. Being bilingual, being able to use both my languages kind of to help out the community. But I also do work for Chase right now as a teller. So also opportunities to grow within the company I would like to do as well, going into their Spanish department.
And you mentioned the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Talk about, well, if we can explain this, you've earned the scholarship from College Success Arizona, which provides up to $6,000 per year for educational expenses. That's funded by the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Talk about their role in your life and College Success roles in your life.
Honestly, both of these organizations have made a huge impact on my college career. Prior to receiving the scholarship, I had to do loans. I had to work 2 jobs just so I would be able to meet my expenses and also my school expenses, just because not being from Phoenix, not having any family up here, it was a little bit harder to get around, to have somewhere to live, to buy food and have like daily necessities. So luckily I had a friend who was also a scholar and told me like, hey, like you're a pretty smart dude. Like I could see you getting the scholarship that I received. You should really apply. So if it wasn't for him, I would have never gotten the opportunity to, one, attend all of the things College Success has offered to me, but I mean also getting able to be a part of the scholarship program.
And the financial aspect of it, $6,000 per year, can you talk about how that has helped you to avoid or limit student debt?
It's pretty much helped me avoid student debt up to 100% ever since receiving it. I did have to take out a small loan for books. That was just because I had to take an extra few classes that required brand new books along with an access code. But aside from that, it's helped my financial expenses when it comes to college pretty much be like alleviated.
In addition to the financial aspect of the scholarship, students such as yourself also receive specialized mentoring services through what we call a success advisor or an academic advisor. In your case, it's Matt Sotelo. Can you talk about how Matt has worked with you throughout your college experience?
Matt's helped me either on our one-on-ones where it's cool because I get to meet up with him. I get to talk to him. He checks in on me saying, hey, man, not only how is school treating you, but how is life going? So he's not only there for the school part of it, but he's also there in my personal life if I'm having any problems. Even when it comes to like, oh, hey, like, do you have advice on this? Something, since he's already gone through his undergrad. And it's also really cool because he was Greek, and when he was in his undergrad, and I'm also Greek right now, so we get to connect on a different level. But it's cool to have Matt not only as an advisor, but kind of as a friend and someone I can go to when I need advice.
Middle and high school students back in Tucson and elsewhere who may hear this at some point, considering their own college options, can you offer them some advice?
My biggest advice is don't give up. Don't be a statistic. Growing up in South Tucson, my high school was very well known for teen pregnancy, college dropouts, high school dropouts, never making it to college. So I love breaking that statistic. So I give that advice to anyone who feels like, oh, there's no point in going to school. There's no point. I can just work at this job, do construction the rest of my life, and be okay. Just because, I mean, I have cousins who have done that personally, and I don't want more people to be that because there's so much more of the world than we see in South Tucson. That was my biggest reason why I left Tucson, was because I didn't see a future for myself, and I saw it here in Phoenix. So whether that be if someone decides to go to ASU or U of A, just break out of that comfort zone and go for your dreams, because if it's money's not an object, there is scholarships. If you apply yourself, you can dream anything and you can achieve it.
Were your parents, your family, those around you when you were young, did they encourage you to get a college education?
For the most part, my sister did go to college. Unfortunately, she didn't finish for personal issues, but my family always did encourage getting an education. Although they weren't able to supply their help financially, their support was always there. My mom, although she didn't finish school herself, she would always try and help me with whatever she could. If not, she would have me, I remember, at the dinner table, making sure I try to understand it, and if I didn't, we'd go over what it was, and she would say, hey, talk to the teacher about this, make sure you get tutoring on that. My parents were always supportive of us getting an education, although they weren't able to. And
outside of the books, beyond the books, outside of the classroom, I should say, do you have any hobbies, sports, interests that you use to sort of occupy your time, maybe reduce some stress?
Well, so I do work a part-time job, so although I just take up most of my time, like I did mention earlier, I am Greek, so I'm in a fraternity. I do a lot of community service with them. I hang out with my brothers. I live with brothers right now, so although I have very little spare time, the little time that I do have, I spend it with them. I like to go to the movies. I like to go to sporting events and just have a good time.
Thank you, Carlos, for the interview and for working so hard to make a difference in our community. Since 2005, College Success Arizona has worked with nearly 1,300 students just like Carlos and provided more than $16 million in scholarships and success services to help increase the college attainment rate in Arizona. If you would like to be part of the mission of providing educational opportunity to high-potential students from low-income circumstances, your tax-deductible contribution can be made through the Donate button located on the College Success Arizona homepage at collegesuccessarizona.org.